Snow drifted across the quiet streets in thin, trembling waves, as if the winter wind itself was shivering in sorrow. The town glowed with warm lights and smiling faces, but for Daniel Hayes, none of it mattered anymore. Moments ago, he had walked out of the factory gates with an empty box, a final paycheck far too small, and a heart that felt heavier than the sky that threatened more snow. Christmas Eve was supposed to be a night of magic, a night of hope, but for Daniel, a single father fighting to give his little girl a life she deserved, it became the night everything collapsed. His job was gone. His savings were nearly gone. And the look on his daughter Lily's face when she asked about Christmas morning haunted him like a shadow he couldn't outrun. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Thread. Your support keeps these stories alive. Daniel walked through the streets with slow, uncertain steps, the world around him a blur of festive cheer he couldn't absorb. He kept replaying the moment his manager called him into the office, the cold and distant tone in his voice, the forced apology about budget cuts, and the thin envelope that felt like an insult more than compensation. He wasn't angry at the job or the world, just tired. Tired of pretending everything was fine for Lily's sake. Tired of hoping things would finally turn around. Tired of standing alone against a life that seemed to push him down again and again. He reached the small rental apartment they called home, a place that had once felt warm but now felt too fragile, like the slightest breeze could shake it apart. Inside, Lily was sitting by the window, her pink hat still on, her eyes sparkling as she watched flakes dance under the street lights. She had been waiting for him so they could go to the Christmas market together, something they did every year. Daniel forced a smile, pushed down the ache in his chest, and took her hand as they stepped out again. He knew she noticed something was off, children always do, but she didn't say anything. She simply looked up at him with the pure trust he feared he didn't deserve anymore. The marketplace glowed with warmth, laughter, and the smell of roasted chestnuts. People held hands, exchanged gifts, and hugged their loved ones tightly. Daniel tried to blend in, but every joyful scene around him only added weight to the storm he was carrying. The truth was, not only had he lost his job, but he was also behind on rent. The landlord had warned him that he had only a few days left. Daniel didn't know how to tell Lily they might not have a home for New Year's. She deserved better than a father who kept failing, no matter how hard he tried. As they wandered through the lights, Daniel spotted someone in the crowd, a woman in an elegant coat, standing tall with the confidence of someone who had never known the coldness of empty pockets. Her name was Amelia Walsh. They had once worked together, though work together was generous, she had been promoted quickly, while Daniel had remained a regular worker. Their paths rarely crossed except for occasional disagreements or misunderstandings, and Daniel had always thought she disliked him. She represented everything he didn't: stability, success, certainty. She was the very last person he would ever expect to care about someone like him. He tried to avoid her, but she noticed him almost instantly. When their eyes met, Daniel felt exposed, as though she could see the truth he was trying so desperately to hide. She walked toward him slowly, her gaze shifting from him to Lily. Daniel braced himself for polite small talk or some awkward conversation he wasn't emotionally prepared for, but instead she simply asked if he was all right. Her tone wasn't condescending or cold, it was soft, almost concerned. Daniel hesitated, but before he could answer, Lily tugged his coat and asked if they could buy a small ornament. He checked his pocket, knowing what he'd find. A few coins. Not enough. He whispered a gentle, maybe later, and he saw Amelia quietly observing them, a flicker of sorrow crossing her face. The snow thickened, crowds grew louder, but Daniel felt himself sinking into silence. Emotions he had been holding back all day began to surface. He excused himself and took Lily home early. He tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead, and sat alone in the kitchen with the single envelope containing his final paycheck and overdue notices. Tears finally escaped him, not out of weakness, but out of exhaustion. He didn't know what to do next. He didn't know how to protect the only person who truly mattered. And above all, he didn't know how much longer he could keep pretending he had answers. When a sudden knock echoed through the quiet apartment, Daniel wiped his eyes quickly, assuming it was the landlord. But when he opened the door, Amelia stood there, snow dusting her hair and coat, carrying 2 bags and a nervous expression he'd never seen on her before. She told him she followed him home not out of arrogance, but because she saw something in his eyes she couldn't ignore. She explained that she had been raised by a single mother who had struggled the same way he was struggling now, and she knew what desperation looked like, even behind a forced smile. She handed him a warm box of groceries, a small gift wrapped for Lily, and an envelope. Daniel tried to refuse, his pride screaming louder than his circumstance, but she insisted gently. In the envelope was not charity, but an offer, a temporary job at the company's new community program she was supervising. She told him she had always respected his work ethic and that his position loss was not his fault. She had fought to save several roles, including his, but management hadn't listened. This was her way of making things right. The job started in January, with full salary and health benefits, and she assured him his situation would stabilize. Daniel felt the ground shift beneath him. He had expected loneliness, disappointment, maybe even humiliation, but not compassion. Not from her. She didn't owe him anything. She had nothing to gain. Yet she chose to help anyway. In that moment, Daniel realized that sometimes the people we think are farthest from us are the ones sent to lift us when we fall. Christmas morning came softly, with Lily waking to small gifts, warmth, and a father who felt hope returning to his bones. The apartment no longer felt like a cage but a place where something had changed, where kindness had stepped in when life had given up. Amelia didn't just save their Christmas, she gave Daniel the chance to rebuild, to breathe, and to believe again. As Daniel watched Lily laugh, holding the little ornament she had wanted so badly, he understood something profound: kindness doesn't always come from where we expect it. Sometimes it arrives like a quiet miracle on a snowy night, delivered by someone who once felt distant but turns out to have the warmest heart of all. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps these meaningful stories reach more people. Before we end, tell us in the comments, do you believe unexpected kindness can change a life?
A ключ.
¡Ah!
No, pará. Lo hacía negro, literalmente. Negro, literalmente. Ay, Dios. No, basta, basta.
Poné normal, poné normal.
Pero normal de AT no tiene ningún tipo de sentido, hermano.
O si quieren, ¿por qué no jugamos un. ¿Cómo era?
El del
No se
robot.
llamaba Basta. Tutti Frutti.
¿Eh?
Un Tutti Frutti.
Frutti no. No. No.
Bueno, poné normal entonces.
Pero normal de AT no.
¿Eh?
Normal de AT es raro. ¿No quieren jugar a la del Dead by AI?
¿El cual?
El que vos tenés que poner una.
Espera. Yo estaba viendo jueguitos. Este está bueno. Eh,